Yeah, go on.
So who are you and where are we today?
My name is Jamie Dunn. I am a broom maker.
Yeah.
We're in a barn in Somerset, North Somerset, let's be clear, just outside of Bristol.
Yeah.
And
It's a lovely part of the world.
It's gorgeous. And quite people are into their folklore and mythology, and I don't know, they really like their nature walks. And there's a stone circle in the village next to us, Stanton Drew. I think it's the second largest behind Avebury. I think it's Avebury, Stanton Drew, Stonehenge. Okay. So people don't know about that unless you're from around here. Cool things. Yeah. I love this region. It's the Southwest is so cool. It's not as snowy as Derbyshire. I lived in Derbyshire for a little bit, about 8 years, but it's snowier than where I was in Wales. So it's lovely. And I live in Bristol, the city now, and commute out here every day to the farm, and it's idyllic. It's a really nice place to work.
Yeah, it's quite the contrast from the city, and then
it's like a breath of fresh air when I come out of the city, as you will have just seen with the traffic. And I live in a very built up part of the city as well, so it's so nice.
It's a little bit of haven for you.
It is, yeah. Hopefully, maybe someday we'll move out to the countryside. We'll see.
Get set on those brooms.
Yeah.
Buy that house.
I would really love to have. I would love to have my own barn. Oh, I'd love to have a studio of my own. It would be great. But I'm seriously so lucky I fell on this place.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's really changed the whole game, and people are quite jealous of it when I show it.
Yeah,
on my
I mean, I can am right now.
Lots of people work in their garages back home, and different studios for different people. Some people work in their basements. In Canada, there's a maker in Canada working in her basement, but I still think their work isn't affected by that because their work is stunning. But I do feel really inspired by this place.
It's kind of Instagram friendly, right?
It is, except for the pin spots. It makes it difficult. It's bad shadows, and if I try to shoot downward, I just catch the shadow of my phone.
Right, yeah.
So in the summertime, it's better than the winter. But I go outside a lot. I just take the brooms outside and shoot a lot around. There's a big sunflower field in August and all that stuff.
Perfect. Being on a flower farm.
Yeah, it is perfect.
It's pretty good.
It's like my dream flower farm. I love flowers.
Telling you, man, one day we'll hang up the boots.
No.
I'll have a ranch. You can have a flower farm spot.
Okay.
I'll have my pigs.
Okay.
It'll be
good.
perfect.
It'll be perfect.
Anyway, we're nowhere near that.
When did you start broom making? You're pretty new to it.
I am brand new to it. I wanted to buy a broom for my kitchen and thought I would be so easy to find a maker in this country because I thought you invented them, as I said earlier. And I was really wrong about that. What I did discover was a whole world of broom making in other countries, but not in the UK. So at the time, I ended up just doing a deep dive on the internet, looking at YouTube videos. I found a book called Swept Away by Karen Hobbs. It was a self-published book.
Yep.
Not comprehensive, and because it was self-published, it's from a specific viewpoint, which was very American and doesn't really talk about other cultures and other broom cultures, which I've discovered are many and vast and ancient as well. So when I found these other broom makers in North America, which clearly is where I'm from, I thought, oh, easy, I'll just buy one off of one of those people and have it shipped over. And that was when I discovered Alyssa Blackwell, who is Hearthcraft Brooms. She's in the Pacific Northwest. And I had never seen a broom like that before. What I had in my mind was a traditional shaker, flat, straw, wonky handle, fine, definitely hand-tied. Yeah. And Alyssa and other makers just take it to a different level. It's more of an art piece rather than a broom, but they're totally functional. And they're made with the exact same material that I make as well, but I'm more of a traditionalist, to be fair. But anyway, I thought, I'll buy one of her brooms. She only sells in drops because she's so popular. She has a huge following. And this was during COVID. And her drops were about 3 a.m. UK time. So I would get up in the morning, first time, had my coffee. Oh, those brooms went on sale last night. I better go get one. I get on the internet, gone. 7 a.m. And I thought, okay, I'll try again. Maybe it's just, it was just a really cool collection. Maybe the next one won't be so cool. Next one, same thing, gone. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get up at 3 a.m. and buy a broom. And that's exactly what I did. I got up at 3 a.m. I put the broom in the cart, and then I see the customs and tax, and it doubles the price of the broom. I just couldn't do it. So
it's one thing, isn't it? Like if it was double the price, but you knew it was going to the maker, fair enough.
Well,
that is the point.
Yeah.
To just a government entity.
Exactly.
It's a shame.
It is a shame because it's preventing people in other parts of the world from sharing their art with each other for prices that are reasonable. And that would benefit the maker as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, I understand why it works the way that it does, but it's really frustrating. So then in my mind, I'm thinking, can I just send it to my sister's house, cut it in half and stick it in a suitcase and bring it back? I mean, you start thinking of ways to bring things in. Anyway, long story short, I didn't buy the broom. And I thought, well, how hard can it be to make one?
Yeah.
And it turns out it's pretty hard.
Yeah, it's harder than it looks.
And that's how it started.
Every maker journey ever. How hard can it be?
Yeah.
Turns out it's really hard.
It is really hard. I mean, especially in the UK, we're in a unique position here because we're not in places like, well, that have proper summers, for example. So the material that I make brooms from is the traditional material that most cultures use. Not all, but most. Even in Japan, they grow, this is broom corn. It's a variety of sorghum. It is grown in the UK, but not for craft. So it's grown for animal feed. It's also used in people food, sorghum snacks. There's a footballer who's got his face. Is he one of the Canes?
No, nothing about football.
I don't know anything about football either. Anyway, I had some on an airplane recently.
Yeah.
And I think it was Harry Kane. Maybe
Wouldn't even
Captain
know
of
who Harry
England,
Kane was.
perhaps. Right, and they were called sorghum snacks, and they're made from a relatively similar grain, I'm assuming.
Right, okay.
Anyway, so nobody's growing it here for craft. Whereas if you're in North America, Canada, US, you can not only just order that to be delivered to your house, you can get it in different colors, different weights, different lengths, some with the knurl still attached. I'll show you what that is in a minute. And you can buy all the tools. You can buy full kits with instructions and then sit with the maker on a video call, and then you've got all your stuff and she's telling you, okay, now do this. You can't do that here. It's not the video part. You can do that, and I have done that. But the getting the materials was the big problem for me. So Google, thank you, just kept looking, and I found a woman in Norwich who is supplying craft corn for us, and she's importing it from North America, and I would probably have to get an import license if she wasn't doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
So I bought some bits from her. It was just, at the time, I don't think she even had twine. I think she just had broom corn and some other fibers, Oringa, Tampico, other like plant-based fibers to use for brush making, broom making. And I just kept ordering little bits from her, and she kept saying, I'd like to see what you're making. And I was using completely the wrong twine. I had no idea what I was doing. They were wonky. They were terrible. I'll show you what they look like. I kept my first one. Nice. And I didn't want to show her because they were terrible. Yeah. But then I was looking at, people like Alyssa and other makers in the US and Canada that had been doing this for a few years at least at this point. So I did eventually show her a photo, and she said, I'll do you a wholesale deal. And that was just when it clicked. And I was having issues with my health, and I didn't want to sit at a desk job and fill myself with cortisol. My husband said, get a florist job. Why don't you just go work in a coffee shop? I do have a creative background from back when I was younger, but I hadn't been doing anything like that professionally for many years, but certainly not broom making or anything to do with fiber. And I quit my job, and I started a website, and I did an Instagram, and then nothing happened. For a really long time. So that was last year. So I made my first broom in March of 23. I sold my first broom to a stranger in May of this year. And right now it just is going really fast. It's happening now. Lots of interest, and I've had my work accepted for an exhibition down in Devon. Nice. That's for emerging makers for the Southwest, which I am absolutely gobsmacked that I was selected. I don't know how that happened. So that's 8 to 10 double-headed pieces. So those will be quite complex, and I think my hands will be hurting afterwards, but it would be so worth it because so many people will see hand-tied brooms for the first time. Yeah. There are a handful of other makers in the UK right now.
Few.
But it's such a niche craft that most people haven't seen them with their own eyes unless you happen to run in those circles. So it'll be exciting for me.
So when we said to somebody, family, friends, we're going to see a broom maker, they're like, huh?
Yeah.
They're like, is that a thing? It's like, just educating people that is still a thing. Yes,
it is still a thing. And then, of course,
it has to be still a thing. Of course it's still a thing. People still need brooms. You still need to brush up.
Yes, I know.
This is what, that's the thing I never really get with it. It's like...
People use a Hoover these days.
It's just, because you can go to B&Q and buy a broom for buttons, right?
And you can still buy a straw broom. I mean, you can buy them online, but they're made on machines, and they don't have the same kind of personality or flair, and frankly, they just don't look as cute.
Yeah.
And certainly when you're talking about using other materials for the brooms, such as antler or bone or other things, you won't find those really anywhere. So it's better, to experiment and figure out like the different shapes, and this is sort of where I'm at with it now. But what's really interesting is people's reaction to them. And I hadn't really thought about that, and I hadn't really thought about where I am in the world and how lucky I am to be in a country where people kind of think it's cool, like they're not afraid of it, or maybe, I'm not sure how to phrase it, but witch fear is a real thing in certain parts of the West.
Right, okay.
Just not in the UK.
Yes.
Which is really lovely to know, because to me that's a kind of a non-issue. That isn't even, these are actual functioning brooms, although I do make brooms for people who practice with brooms as well, absolutely.
Quidditch players.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you make a fast one?
Oh, for sure, for sure. But I think what's really interesting about it is the different people that you come across as a maker. So all of my suppliers are really interesting people. The guy who supplies my hazel is an old school coppicer. He would probably, if he could, he would turn into an Anglo-Saxon and go back in time. Yeah. He makes bark from trees into ropes. Like, he's that guy. He manages woods in the old ways. He makes charcoal. He's that guy. The guy who supplies my antlers, he's in the Peak District. He's an actual gameskeeper. He knows everything about deer habitat and all of the animal habitat in the UK. We've had a couple of really interesting conversations, actually. And knowing these people and meeting them in person is such a... it's a bonus, because I'm absorbing that energy and their passion for what they're doing. And it's the old school ways as well. And I think sometimes the old ways are the better ways, particularly when it comes to something like this,
I think so.
These are sustainable materials. Yeah. I mean, I have a plastic broom in my kitchen and I wanted to replace it, and I couldn't, not really, without buying something from another continent that probably came on a big container ship with no personality and, probably child labor. I don't know. I don't know the origin of it. Yeah. And I think people are becoming more conscious of what they're purchasing and where things are coming from. At least in the UK, they seem to be much more conscious of it. And I'm glad for that, because...
It's really interesting you say in the UK, because we felt the people we met in the States, our caveat, all of what I'm about to say, with our view is very skewed because of the people we meet.
Yes.
But the people we met in the States, I definitely felt were more in tune to that than the people we've met in the UK.
Really?
Yeah. But then we meet people in the UK through other circles of ours, because it's where we live.
Sure.
Whereas the people we met in the States were obviously only makers, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
I could definitely see that, as you mentioned it. If someone is if they're making something, especially with natural materials, they'll be in tune, for sure. But I would say the general population, not so much. I mean, even cities, for sure in California, they don't recycle. Like, it's bizarre, just the waste that happens. And we could talk about that just make that about that.
Yeah.
But I really love that people love that about these.
Yep.
That they are sustainable and they're natural. And truthfully, I've heard stories about Appalachian families who have their brooms for so long that they leave them in their wills to their heirs. That's
really?
How long they will last. If you care for your brooms properly. And I will tell you how that is. Any natural bristled broom, you must hang it. You cannot stand it on its bristles and store it that way. Yeah, never leave them outside, especially in this country. They don't like damp. They don't like rain. They don't like still air. You want them hanging in a well-ventilated place, not too cold. So, for instance, I was originally storing my broom corn in the top of the loft here over the winter. Not a good place to put it. So it mildewed. So, but the good news is you can take vinegar and water, or tea tree oil or other essential oils, and you can use any material that would be antimicrobial. Is that the right phrase? To remove that. But it is a trick, and we're not the only people dealing with humidity on the planet. Obviously, the Japanese deal with it as well. Other Asian countries and in spots around the U.S. as well, they definitely deal with it. But if you look after your broom, they will literally outlast me and you. They will go to someone else. And then when you're done, you just put them in the ground. They're natural. Yeah. So I love that about these. Yeah. It's a bit of a bonus.
Something really nice about knowing the whole ecosystem of your broom as well. Like, you know exactly where the antlers come from. You know exactly where the twine comes from. You know the woman that brings the... And I'm sure if you asked her, like, where does the actual material come from? Like the broom... It's not broom wheat. What is it? Broom corn. Broom corn. Where does the broom... She'll be able to tell you that. Like, there's something really nice about knowing the ecosystem of a product. Yeah. And it's still being a viable product to do.
And it's making me think about other things as well. My consumption, generally speaking, I didn't have a car when I started making, because in Bristol you don't need a car. You just can get it around. Everything's so close. But it was hard coming out here on a bus, I'm not going to lie. And then walking down the lane in rain and,
Which is every day except one Sunday.
Yeah, stuff under my arms, like on the bus, And so I was car sharing with my husband, but he works away a lot. So, and he just has a little 2-door car, so it wasn't great for handles or any of the rest of it. Anyway, long story short, I got a car out of the deal. But I felt funny about it at first, like, should I really can I do this without a car? So that's Bristol. That's the Bristol effect on me.
But you could do it if you moved out to the country.
I would definitely.
There would be ways to do it, wouldn't there?
Absolutely.
Just country houses are extortionate in the UK.
They are great. But they're so beautiful. The architecture out here. Oh my gosh, these villages.
We do have nice buildings in the UK, and like certainly in Scotland, in this part of England, and there's a number of pockets of England, we do have very nice rural buildings.
It's amazing. It is just astonishing. Anytime I shoot any footage of the buildings around the farm, it's usually at a certain time of day or the flower beds, what have you. The reaction from people is much bigger than even with the brooms. They just love the idea of English countryside, British countryside. It's idyllic, and it's, so well depicted in film. And, anyone who's like me, who is an Anglophile anyway, sorry, because I know you're Scottish, but do you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? We're just nuts about, British culture. I feel pretty lucky. I feel pretty blessed to be here, to be honest. I feel really lucky.
That's good. That's a nice place to be in life.
It is.
What was it that first drew you to straw brooms?
I think just the compostable nature of them, because the broom I had, as I said, that was the right shape, but it was plastic and metal. And I live in a 180-year-old house and thought, what am I doing with this broom? And it was wearing, and I had been storing it on its bristles, which is what most people do. And even the plastic ones, they get fuzz on the bottom, and they just stop sort of picking things up after a while. I really did not want to buy another one. They're expensive. And I didn't want to buy another plastic broom. And that's when I thought, when I was growing up as a kid, I'm from a very small town, Montana. Right. My hometown is less than 100 people.
I am desperate to go to Montana.
You need to go.
So desperate to go to Montana.
We could talk for days about Montana. It's so beautiful. And of course, when you grow up in a place like that, which you may have had this experience being Scottish, you don't appreciate it all where you're from until you move away or you leave it. And then you look back at it and think, oh my God, it's actually stunning. What was I thinking? But it is a different way of living. And I'm not really a real country girl. But I was really lucky to have been raised in that environment because, my parents were outdoor people, and my mom's family is country people as well, all farmers. My dad obviously was raised on that ranch, the cattle ranch. And, their parents were all really outdoorsy. There's a huge hunting culture. So that's not about waste. Obviously, you're killing an animal and then you're feeding your family for the winter. Literally, we ate game all winter. So as a Scottish person, you probably understand all of that. Not everyone will understand what that is. But I feel really lucky having grown up in that environment and understanding the turn of the season. These things happen at this time of year. These things happen at this time of year. And it's a natural cycle. Whereas if you're not raised in that environment, if you're raised in a suburb or a city, you won't. Unless you really look for it, it's hard to have that connection. And I think a lot of people would feel a lot better if they were connected back into that cycle. And I mean that generally around the whole globe. I mean, think about the Japanese guys talking about forest bathing. It's real. It's a totally real thing. And I feel really lucky to have had that in my childhood. We primitive camped. We played in deep snow in the winters. We played on frozen ponds. We were ice skating outside. We sledged outside. You guys all use the different words here, sorry.
No, it's good.
We say sledding, you say sledging. And, it was just a really wholesome place to grow up. Yeah. And so when I came out here to see this place, my heart just skipped a beat. I thought, oh my God, this farm is so cute. It's totally different to where I grew up. We didn't have trees for one thing like this. Yeah. We had what you call a shelter belt where you plant trees to stop the wind. Yeah. But it's a prairie. I'm from the prairie. I'm not from the mountains. Right. But the mountains are, in my heart for sure. So, I just feel really, it's really important to try to have natural things in your home. Yep. And, there's a lot of information out there now about how much microplastic we're ingesting.
We're just having a podcast about that.
Yeah, I'm thinking about laundry. What am I putting in my clothing? I'm Gen X, so it's probably too late for me. We were drinking out of hoses. Who knows what was in the hose? But do you know what I mean? I think for younger generations, I think awareness is so important. And I think people will generally feel better physically and mentally if they can get back in touch with nature in whatever way it is, if it's a city park or, the woods, next to your suburb, it's so important, so important.
Yeah. It's interesting to look at a craft and to look at making as a gateway drug to something bigger, I think. It's
therapy for me. Yeah. I'm not going to lie about that at all. And I did not expect that. The moment I started making, I could smell it and feel the fiber in your hand. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's a spiritual feeling, but definitely I feel a connection to it. And I think too, because my grandparents were such a huge part of my childhood. My parents divorced when I was very young. Mm-hmm. And like a lot of kids in the 70s, we were latchkey kids, and kids in the 80s too. And they were huge in my life. And I lived on the ranch for a while. I lived with both my dad's parents for a while. Yeah. And they were a big source of protection and advocacy for me as a child. I had quite a turbulent childhood, which a lot of people do, but I was so lucky to have them. So now that they're all gone, I ended up with a small financial gift from the sale of the proceeds of that ranch. Very small. And that's how I started this. Brilliant. So rather than spend it on a facelift, which is what my nan said I should probably do because we have the same face and the same skin. She was in her 90s when she said this, by the way. And she was like a card-carrying member of the NRA. She was such a character. Her photo is just there. So it was her that gave me that gift. And I couldn't spend money on a facelift, knowing that her and my ancestors and my dad picked rock out of a prairie so they could plow a field that had never been farmed before, so I could go have a facelift. So the idea is sell as many brooms as I can and pay for my own facelift at some point.
I do need that.
But I mean, there is that connection with them as well. And I do feel a connection with them making brooms, which is weird because I think we had Amish brooms on the ranch. Mm-hmm. And there's an Amish farm shop. If you go to Montana, there's lots of different groups like this. It's not just Amish. There's Mennonite, there's Hutterites. Right. So these are groups of people similar to Amish who live in the old ways. Yeah. They have certain technologies now where I think when I was younger, I don't think they did, like no electricity, whatever. But if you can get into one of their farm shops, oh my Atlanta, it is amazing. The stuff they sell.
I want to go and shoot a documentary on Amish barn raising.
It is.
But I watch so much Amish barn raising.
It's amazing.
Like random clips of them just throwing barns up so fast. I'm like, we are so far behind.
Yeah.
These guys can throw them up.
And it's a skill we had, but we've forgotten it because time has marched on, and it's really important that we preserve that heritage, which these sorts of crafts are the same. It's maybe not quite as important, but they're the same for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's I'd say the main percentage of what we do is because of how much of this craft stuff has been lost. Yeah. Like you saying, speaking the other night with the guys, they're like, people still make brooms. Like, yes, you just need to go out of your way and find them.
Yeah.
But at the listenership and the viewership that we've got, hopefully more people do slowly realise it, right? Like, it's all still there and available. Mm-hmm. The problem comes when it's not, and then there's a gap, because a lot of these, we've been railing pretty hard on the old tacit skills talk, haven't we? People that have been listening to this will be getting bored of it. We attended a talk from one of the key lecturers at a South Korean university, and he was talking about tacit skills that can't be handed on through a book, skills that have to be handed on by like generation to generation to generation. So they're called tacit skills.
Okay.
And it's like, so liking it to Crystal and Arina that we were with the other day, cutting glass. Like if he told me just go and cut that piece of glass, like engrave this, he makes beautiful Irish crystal engraved decanters and glasses. If you just wrote down this is how to do it, and I went, that'd be a mess. But if I sat down with them, I'm pretty sure I'd very quickly get it. And there's a lot of, in the Glaswegian shipbuilding industry's in the same state because we've missed a generation, so we now need to re-educate. Yes. And whenever you do that, of course, you're not starting from nothing, but you're starting from somewhere far lower than where you were. And it's people like yourself and other craftspeople that are just keeping that alive for one step further. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really, really, really important.
I think it is too.
Like, if you've had an idea of like, I want this broom, I can't get it here, but you can still contact these people and talk to these people and get free open information from these people without paying import duties. Make the brooms.
Exactly.
Be the next You don't have to continue a lineage. You can be the next part of that lineage.
Because you mentioned when we arrived, that's something that you want to do.
It is
to teach.
That is so my aim is to teach.
I could see you being a good teacher.
This is, it won't happen this year. As I said,
You're always just getting started yourself. So
well, and I need to make sure that I understand the real technicalities of it. So I am hoping to get to Broom School next year. But it's true that the people back home have been really helpful. And I took a weaving class online in February of last year. Weaving is the caps. So I don't have any samples there, but those are just regular twine handles. But you can take the top of the knurl, soak it in water, and then essentially plait it or braid it onto a handle.
Those are there.
That's it there.
Yeah.
And when I first started, it was really bulbous and terrible and uneven, and I was reading that book and looking at that and trying to find YouTube videos to teach myself how to do it. And one of the broom makers in Kentucky offered just a 2-hour quick class. I picked it up. Sat in the class in my PJs. It was 10 o'clock at night, but it was brilliant because there was people there from Canada. There was people there from all over.
Yeah, cool.
And I'd never spoken to other broom makers ever. I'd never even I'd never met one at that point. And I was rubbish. The piece came out so bad because I was trying to I was really looking at my hands. I wasn't looking at my screen so much. But she recorded that call, obviously, and then sent out the video, and I watched it over and over and over. And that is what got me into that exhibition. It literally changed my craft, literally changed it. So I went from looking, pretty sophomoric to I might actually know what I'm doing, which is also terrifying because I technically really don't. But I'm picking it up really quickly. And I think if that 2-hour class can change my craft, that significantly, what would a week at Broom School do? At the John Campbell School or Brea, Kentucky. So next year, that's my aim. I'm hoping to get some funding and a grant and get over there. And I do have family in Atlanta, which I would really like to combine a visit and then,
We love Atlanta.
We love Atlanta.
Canton, just north of Atlanta. That's where our friends are from. And Georgia's awesome.
It is
Georgia,
cool.
Chattanooga. All that area is just amazing.
It is.
So
it's
nice.
Brilliant. It is such a cool part of the country as well. So that's my aim, and bring that knowledge back to the UK and be able to teach advanced technique, not just the hand brooms or cobwebbers, simple brooms, but people who want to learn the actual craft. Because even in places like Japan, I'm corresponding with a few people with Google Translate.
Yeah.
I don't know if they really know what I'm saying, but when they come back to me in English, I can understand. So I'm hopeful it's the same. And one of them called me Jamie-san on one of my messages, and I thought that was so awesome. But they're having the same issue. The kids are leaving the farms, going into the cities. They don't want to learn. It's usually a farmer community that makes their brooms. Their brooms are so complicated. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. I can't figure out how they do it. I can't look at the broom and figure out the construction. And I was in Japan this year, and I thought I'll buy one and bring the head home and reverse engineer it, take it apart and see. And I found one, but it was made in Thailand, so I didn't bring it home. I want a real Japanese one. So, but it's an issue that is global. So I would imagine that everywhere on the planet. I mean, I have found modern broom makers in the Caribbean, Africa, Japan. I'm sure they're everywhere. This material is also for sale in parts of Europe. So mainland Europe will have it. Ukraine will have it. France. I have Turkish broomcorn at the moment as well.
Okay.
But the majority of the stuff that is used in North American making is from Mexico. But it was grown in the States, but now it's mainly grown in Mexico. But there is a movement to bring that history and that knowledge back into the U.S., and there's farmers that are doing it, and then harvesting together, which is really cool.
That's cool.
With broom makers. It's really, so I want to do that too. That'll be hopefully next September.
Nice.
Yes.
So what needs to happen for that to all come to fruition?
I need funding, and I promised my husband I wouldn't ask him for any investment whatsoever. Yeah. So I don't contribute to our household, besides the cooking and some cleaning. But financially, I've worked full time since I was 16. So I stopped working last year. So I'm essentially retired without a pension. And I'm just doing this for fun, essentially. But in terms of making it happen for next year, I'm either going to need to sell a shed ton of brooms, or there are apparently grants and funding, and it's quite a lot within the Southwest itself. But I'm hearing a lot about Quest And
Quest's good. Yeah, we know the guys at Quest. We know a lot of really good makers that have come through Quest.
They're part of the exhibition that I'm going to be in as well. So their eyes will be there. I'm a member of the Heritage Craft Association. I know they have access as well. And Arts Council England is also involved in our exhibition. So I'm hoping one of those three ways. There's a mentorship up for grabs with the exhibition with Make Southwest. So I've applied. So wish me luck, because if I get in, that's one thing I've listed as one of my aims would be, can I have some grants and funding so I can go back to the US and bring master broom making knowledge back, not just me figuring it out, being self-taught, bring it back here and really build a community of broom makers in this country, which would just be so much fun. Wouldn't it be brilliant? Think of all the opportunities that you could, it's the same as like spoon carving and basket weaving. They're all related in a way. They're green craft. But all the cool opportunities in the UK that are unique to the UK, all the, I just heard about FanFest. Do you know about, I think it's called FanFest. It's the UK equivalent of a Ren fair, a Renaissance fair. Do you know about Renaissance fairs?
I know what they are, yeah.
I'm not like intimately knowledgeable about those, but I know they're very popular in the US, and they're probably laughable to a British person to a degree, because it's sort of like, it's not real, because the US, that population hasn't been there long enough to have, medieval times. But the enthusiasm is there, and the passion for that knowledge is there. But it's real here, obviously, and there's so many little things going on, little festivals and weekends where people get together and camp in the woods and make arrowheads, and it's fantastic.
Flint knappers.
Yes. Yep. So there's that whole side of it, and then there's also the magical side of it as well, which, especially in the Southwest, I'm perfectly placed. So I'm trying to take advantage of both sides of that coin.
Why don't you crowdfund that?
I've never even thought of a crowdfund.
So
before.
Crowdfund, pre-sell courses for people to do the course, and obviously the crowdfunding money that they buy a space on your course in 3-4 months' time allows you to go and do that course in between.
I see. So if I were to offer workshops, it would sort of be like a trade in lieu. Is that how it works?
You could do two things. You could offer workshops and do a trade in lieu, or you could crowdfund it to be like, I want to be the premier broom workshop making in the UK. My courses are going to cost this much, and this will give you a ticket to get into one of my courses at any of these predetermined dates in the future.
I see.
That money paid up front allows you to go and see how it's done over there.
I hadn't even thought of that. That's a really good idea too.
We rail pretty hard against people relying on funding because it disappears. And we've seen so many amazing crafts people rely on it heavily. It's really disappeared in Scotland this last 2 years, this year especially.
Oh no.
And because they've been relying so heavily on funding, the craft now can't survive because they've never taught themselves how to make their craft survive.
I see.
So think about crowdfunding it.
That would mean...
Because then you're not reliant on anyone.
Yes.
Yeah,
and you can pull the date forward and make it all happen quicker.
That's true. That is true. I will have to think about that.
Yeah, do a little bit of research.
That's a really good idea, actually.
Get people in the newsletter.
Because that is probably the number one thing. Well, that might be the number two thing I'm asked the most when I do markets, and I do a lot of markets, is do you teach workshops? So I know there's definitely an appetite for it. I mean, think about it. You could even do hen do's. Who wants to do like cocktail mixing? Like, let's make a broom. Especially,
you'd much rather something like that, wouldn't you?
And there's so many other things that you could pair that with. And we were talking about doing those here on this flower farm. So there's a little barn down at the bottom.
Yeah, that's nice.
So it's open on the one side. They're going to close that, and there'll be a big open fire on one end. And there's a pizza oven already, and they're wood burning pizza oven, so nice and toasty. And we're going to have a workshop space in there, so I'll be able to teach there. But I'm also willing and really wanting to travel around the UK as well. And see more of the country, meet more people.
Experience days are huge at the minute. Everybody wants to do something where they're engaging with others and they're learning something rather than just being like, let's go to the pub for a drink,
Exactly.
It's much more fulfilling.
Exactly.
Bryony Machin makes a great business out of it. She does mosaic tiles and she's doing courses maybe every second week at the minute.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
going to like lovely Airbnbs and
beautiful places in
retreats
Cornwall and all over the place. Yeah, makes absolute great business out of it. And she's really, really focused and put a real good business head on, one, not relying on funding, two, not relying on product sales. She has product sales, but really focusing on workshop and events.
And I think that is a really good stream of income for a small business person as well. And you're sharing the knowledge. Some people I know are worried about sharing that, especially for a niche craft. But
nobody is any good.
I don't feel that way at all, especially when it comes to something that, well, this isn't a red listed endangered heritage craft, by the way. It doesn't fit the definition.
Yep.
The definition in Britain is essentially a birch besom. So if you read the definition, it is red listed and it says broom, but they really mean a besom, and it's made of birch twigs. So it would be more of the twiggy bits with a hazel handle, old school on a shave horse.
Yep.
So that's another thing that I want to talk to Heritage Craft about is this broom making also part of the heritage of this country? I've read about heather broom lore and history in this country. And I know there were straw brooms in this country because that's how they got to the colonies in the first place. So it would be worth looking at. But would it really make a difference? I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I don't feel quite confident enough in my own skill and ability to approach them with it, to say, look, I think this is what we need to do, and this is my vision for this country, because I'm not the only broom maker in this country. There are others. And they may already have a path forged for themselves. There's not much communication between us at the moment.
Right.
But I really hope that changes. I would really, really love to know other broom makers, particularly because it's a unique situation in the UK. It's not so easy for us here as it is in other parts of the world. And it would be really nice to be able to, have a cup of tea with somebody and sit down and say, right, let's do some joint workshops. Let's, join forces. Let's, save this craft and teach people, because it's really therapeutic. It's quite meditative as well. It's really nice.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it is really good.
Have you done much of that with any other makers from other disciplines?
I have not. But whenever I meet them, especially when I'm at other markets, it's amazing how quick they are to come in. Everybody's curious about the brooms, for one thing.
Right.
How quick they are to come and chat, which I just love that about makers. But they'll also say, your product would be perfect up in Stroud at this particular market.
Yeah.
Write this down.
Yeah, they're good for that.
The knowledge sharing is so, and it's just really... it's really heartening to know that people aren't afraid to share their information as well. And a lot of it is hard earned as well. I don't know exactly what your background is, but if you've done the market thing, wow, it's a lot of work.
Done the market thing.
Yeah, and
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a hit and a miss as well.
It is, very much so.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot this year in the short amount of time. I mean, I only did my first market in May, and I think I know, at least from my region so far, what's working and what to avoid. Although I am still experimenting. I'm going to Whitby to do Whitby Goth Weekend at the end of this month. I don't know if Goths use brooms, but I bet they'll like black ones. So guess what? I have some black ones. So we're gonna try.
Yeah,
we'll try and see.
Got to try it though, don't you? You need to learn it yourself. Whether it's going to work or not.
And this is the other thing about this business that I didn't recognize when I started it, was the places you could go with a business like this. What opportunities, what kind of people would I meet, and how could I use this business as a vehicle just for my own experience, just for fun? Like, what kind of things do I want to do? Music festival, makers area, those are brilliant.
They're getting bigger as well.
Much bigger. But other things, and I wrote a little laundry list of things when I started that I would like to do with the business, not about money or making money, just experiences I'd like to have. And I've already ticked off quite a few, which is shocking. It's so shocking. And I'm so, and this is one of them. This experience was one. I wrote it down. I would love to be interviewed on a podcast, because I'd like to go back and listen to this in a year, 2, 3 years time.
A good stamp in time.
And listen to myself and cringe, but then take away from it, like, this point in time, literally right now, it's just happening. It's just running away right now, and I'm working so hard to keep up with it. And it's like a dream come true in that way, and not so much financially. It's just people get it, they understand it, they love it, they're drawn to it, and I just love talking about it. So it's really great to have this opportunity to talk about it. So I'm grateful.
What is the aspiration for it?
Genuinely, because of my age, I'm not near retirement, but I am nearing retirement. I would like to get to the point where I've got all of it down. I know my business, I've got my style, my own stamp. I mean, there's broom makers in the US and Canada. I just see a broom and I know who's made it. Not everyone, but I can identify certain styles. So I would like to develop that. I'd like to teach technically. Here comes Badger.
More doggies.
Badger.
Sorry. Come on, babes. Come on, you.
You've got a dog visiting.
Come on, you. Out. Don't. I'm going to shut the half door. Let's go. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Hold on.
Don't be sorry, it's totally fine. Now's a good time to do an advert for the We Are Makers magazine. Kate, do you want to do the advert for the We Are Makers magazine?
Yeah, did you know that we actually did a print magazine as well? Not just
Did
a
we?
podcast. Yes, and we share the stories of makers from all over the world.
And how many maker stories have we shared?
I think we've shared almost 400 now, over 12 editions.
There you go. And
So-
where's it available?
www.wearmakers.shop.
There you go. We snuck an ad in there. Brilliant.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
No, that's quite good. We managed to sneak an ad in there, so that's fine.
I'm sorry. I could talk forever. I'm really
it's totally
chatty.
cool.
I'm sorry about that.
Love it. Makes my job really easy. So you obviously set out to get it to a point.
A
Tell me more.
really advanced point,
Right.
and then sell it or give it away. Because eventually I won't be able to do it anymore. I mean, this takes hand dexterity.
Mm-hmm.
I've got arthritis now.
Right.
So I would assume that eventually my physical ability will diminish. And that's fine, that's life. This is what happens. But I need to teach people so that I can hand this off to someone. It doesn't even have to be my company, Bristol Broom Works, but the material, all the tools I've cobbled together, I've built tools. I don't want to just put it in a compost heap. I would really like to pass that to somebody.
Yeah.
So by building a community, hopefully someone will say, oh my gosh, Jamie, I would love to, I'll take all your kick winders, I'll take all your spindles, I'll take everything.
Lock, stock and barrel.
Yeah.
Whole lot. Yeah.
It's a nice way to be, isn't it? Just to feel like, I want to pass this on to somebody.
And it kind of goes back to my whole, like my childhood, my grandparents, them giving to me, and then having this given to me, and then giving it, you know what I mean?
You're giving that
everything is
opportunity
cyclical.
to somebody else, and you've built that opportunity.
And this is
from
how
scratch.
craft and art survives.
Yeah.
It's people giving it. So, do you want to shut this door?
No, it's totally fine. That'll cut out all the noise in the background anyway, it's fine.
Okay.
So in order to give it away and for it to have worth or to sell it, it needs to be a viable business.
Exactly.
Like you said, you put money into it. Are you taking a wage from it yet?
Not a wage,
Right.
but I'm surviving. I can pay my rent. I can pay all my admin fees, not taxes yet. I'm not VAT registered. I haven't made enough money to be VAT registered, but hopefully that will come soon. And keep myself in materials, essentially.
So you are treating it like a business, not a hobby. Great.
Yep. I keep the money separate. I keep it in a little sad little account. Hopefully it's feeling
It'll
a little
be a happy
healthier.
account one day,
Yeah.
and you'll think back to the point when it was a sad little
Genuinely, and I just had my first Scottish order.
account. Nice.
Nice. Where's it going?
It's going to Isle of Skye.
Oh,
but
of course it's going to the Isle of Skye. Eh?
I'm dropping it off in Stratford upon Avon, and I'm so excited about it because they're wearing kilts and they're going on in the Fairy Glen, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to look so beautiful. I don't know when this is coming out, but they'll have been married by then. They're getting married this month, so I'm so excited. But he knew what it was straight away. I said, "How did you find me?" I Googled, so my SEO must be working. SEO might be working.
Nice.
I found you on Google, and that's exactly what we want. We've never seen a broom like that. We want the double-headed broom. So I'm
Nice.
so excited. So I've had to shut my shop
Right.
because I've got too many orders
much.
now.
But that's a good
It is.
position
Just put a big waiting list on it.
I-
Keep your
well,
shop open, but put a big waiting list on it.
I'm working on my website. I did it this morning where I sort of like started to rejig just slightly so that people can still see what's there. But I just can't take a custom order right now, which is a really good place to find myself. Although it feels weird because it's everything is so busy, and I've got stockists to deliver to, and I've just got market after market this month because it's a Broom Maker's Christmas, October.
Yep.
So taking full advantage of that, and then it'll be heavy making for the exhibition that's due like toward the end of the year, and will be installed at the end of the year. But stock list and photos will be due December 1st, and I'm going home for Thanksgiving. So I've got to have like I need to be organized and make sure. So I'm hopeful that next year it'll be a VAT registration, get an accountant, get myself like properly set up that way. But so far, I feel like I'm on the right path. I feel like I'm on the right path. Mistakes are being made, I'm sure of it. It's how business works. But I'm really excited about the future. And I'm excited about this craft. And I'm just really grateful to have a chance to talk about it and share it with people because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm
You seem to
getting
have really
on
found something that you're really, really,
positive
really
vibes.
into. Is this your first craft endeavour?
Yeah.
Is it?
In this way, yeah. I've never worked with a natural fiber. So my background was visual Merchandising. I'm a fashion stylist. I worked for Nordstrom. If you spent any time in the States, you'll know about them. So I started with them when I was 16 and then became a stylist. I worked fashion shows. I met people who are now really famous. That was really fun.
Who all need brooms.
Yeah. Well, they might need rooms. You might be right. But my background is visual. So lighting, fashion, building sets, fashion show sets, event design, window design. So those skills, even simple woodworking, has all come into play. So, and I'm learning new ones as well. So, I mean, I don't need a full woodworking shop for my handles. But I can do the bits I need to do. But experimenting with staining, varnishes, you know, bleaching, natural dyeing, maybe next year, we'll see. But if you, the thing I find strange about this craft is whenever I ask someone, would you be interested in maybe having a partnership, almost everybody says yes.
Really?
Which is so cool. So I have some really neat things in the pipeline.
Cool.
Which I'm really excited about, which will be unique to me as a maker in this country. It's not an original idea, but it's just unique to me, which I'm excited about. And the commercial aspects as well. So I'm really excited about that and taking it to another level. I just want eyes on this product. I just want people to see it and think about it before they buy a plastic broom. Not everyone can afford a handmade broom, and I understand that. And it's true of a lot of niche craft that is, you know, handmade. It can cost money, and I understand that. But if you think about how much you might spend on brooms in your lifetime, you could buy one and give it to your grandkids, and they'll use it and probably give it to their grandkids as well. So there is sort of
That's
that.
the hard thing to do in
It's a hard
craft, isn't
sell.
it? Is to educate people, buy well, buy once.
Yeah.
Because
That's
it's a lot of
the
money
really
to part with
difficult
at that time.
It is.
But you won't have to part with it again.
No. You'll
I
never buy
don't think
another
it
one.
is a lot
product.
of money to part with at any time. I think it's that everything else is such a little amount of money to part with, and that's what has become the status quo.
It is true. And
It's
we're
kind of
conditioned
we're
to think that
conditioned
way.
to think the cheap's the normal, and then the more expensive is the expensive.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, even look at when we were doing the leather belts, and when we had the leatherware company, the belts, we shut that down, 5-6 years ago when we went full time on this, and we're still getting emails from people asking for it, and they were like £100 belts. And at the time, even my dad was like, "Oh," I remember him emailing like, "Oh, would you do one to my pal at golf for like 30 quid?" I was like, "No." It's like, "Well, it's better 30 quid than it lying about." I was like, "No, it's not, because it devalues a brand."
Yeah.
Like, it has to be the price it has to be.
Yeah.
Your dad
And
listens to us be like, oh, thanks, Jack.
No, but it's true, isn't it? And I think now that he sees more and more of the stuff, and maybe his financial position's got better, or whatever it is, he's noticing more buy well, buy once, for sure.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I bought a good set of boots, bought a set of Red Wings. It's like, you paid how much for them? Still got them. Wore them every day for about 5 years, and then bought a pair of Thorougoods and wore them every day since we got married 3 years
Still
ago.
got them, but it's just
I've just not had them resold yet, because it's really difficult to find someone to resell them
It's
properly.
so true. I'm still wearing boots that I had when I moved here, and that was 17 years ago. Nice. And I just found out there's a whole thing on TikTok about them now. Fry boots. They're Mexican motorcycle boots.
Right?
They're like, you can wear them in a workshop. They're really heavy, duty boots, and they're in perfect condition. And I still wear them to this day. But apparently it's a thing. And all of us girls who bought them back in the 90s and the 2000s are gloating about it, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh my gosh, I love my Fry boots. And so, and they do. They'll last you decades.
Yeah.
But they're not
Fry
for everyone.
must have a marketing campaign going on it.
They must do.
Get in touch with Fry and do a Fry X.
oh yeah,
Bristol
My
Broom
vintage
Works.
boots in my broom studio.
yeah. It's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea,
Be like, see all
actually.
these people that are pretending they've had them since day one.
Yeah.
I've had them since day
Yeah,
one.
look at these.
Yeah.
Seriously. But it's true of anything. And I think it's really heartening to see younger generations embracing this thought, because I feel in a lot of ways, and I'm totally generalizing, I think my generation, we are the slacker generation, and we just kind of take care of ourselves and keep to ourselves. But I think we've missed a lot of tricks, and we're paying the consequences are coming to fruition now. So I'm really glad to see younger generations taking it a lot more seriously. I think we thought we were when Rock the Vote came out. We were registering to vote, and then it was a new thing, and it really wasn't, obviously, because our parents were the ones doing it in the 60s, obviously, but. I don't think we've achieved what we could have in that vein, in terms of overconsumption and just all of it, and this conditioning to buy cheap and frequently and all of that. I think my generation has missed a big trick there, for sure, because I think we started on that path and then forgot about it, which is a shame.
So with that in mind, what price point does a broom start at, and what goes into making the broom? Talk me through making the broom first.
Do you want to talk about a full-size broom?
Yeah, let's talk about a full-size broom first.
So for me, a full-size broom starts with a handle, and those aren't very expensive, actually. Even properly milled ones, like full solid oak beech, they're not as expensive as you would think.
Right.
Broom corn is a little bit more expensive than you'd think, but still, it's not the most expensive thing on the broom. It's my time is what really...
And rightfully so.
Yeah. So a full-size broom requires time because you've got to prep your handles, and then you've got to soak your broom corn as well.
Right.
But it has to be taken out of the water at a certain point, I've noticed, because sometimes I put it in a little too long and it doesn't work, and sometimes it's not long enough.
Things you learn,
and I get the spider legs. So you want a nice soft curve on your brooms. Anyway, I would say for a regular shaker style, like this one here, and this is an early one, this is only a prototype. I don't have any actually proper ones to even show you that are for sale right now.
That's
because
a good broom.
These all need stitching, but this is an early prototype, and obviously the stitch itself doesn't even look like this anymore. I've learned how to stitch properly. I've learned how to weave my caps properly. But this would probably start for a full-size house broom, I would say $125, maybe.
It's not a lot of money.
I mean, you would just never replace it.
You'll do 60 quid on a broom at Costco that's plastic.
Yeah. And again, if it bends, you can trim it, you can dip it in hot water if it bends, and straighten it again.
Oh, okay.
Broom corn will take to hot water. You wouldn't want to get the cap too wet. This is the bit that tends to mold and mildew, I find. A little bit of vinegar and water, take care of it. If you live in a really damp house.
Right.
But they just work. And the other thing about broom corn is that it has a natural waxy coating on it, and it actually attracts dirt.
Okay.
The old ways, they knew what they were doing. I swear, they just knew what they were doing. So that's why you don't see brooms made of heather.
So see all the other ones that are kind of like...
These are all in progress. So.
Right. So they've just not been made into the broom.
Yeah. So this is like how it looks in its first phase. This is just attached. So it would be stitched here, and then I'd put a cap on here. I also do them. I don't think I have any here. I think I've sold. So I did a witches market in Glastonbury 2 weeks ago, and I took stock that was earmarked for 2 shops just in case.
Yeah.
And I sold out.
Good.
Wow.
And then I got COVID.
All right,
and I had to call the shops and say, I'm so sorry, I sold your stock. But the other material that I use, this is a single stock. And so this here is the knurl, and this is the hurl. So this bit you can obviously detach. So in this one, it's been detached.
So is that what the stock grows like? That's it straight at the stock? Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is what they look like. This one's got a little bit of a curve to it. And this is the bit that you would soak. So you can leave it whole, pop these in a bucket of warm water.
So for people that are listening, there's 10 to 12 inches there of
knurl.
Solid stem, and that's called the knurl.
Yep, and this is
and
the
then
hurl.
It splits into all and that's half inch in diameter, 12 millimeters.
Yep.
And then it splits into all of the individual hairs effectively, doesn't it?
Yep.
And they're all 2 millimeters across.
And then this stalk is a single, it looks like corn, but without the ears, and it grows about 14, 15 feet high.
Oh, wow.
It's very labor intensive to harvest, which is one of the reasons why production moved to Mexico, and it was on the back of NAFTA. Do you remember the NAFTA agreement in the 90s?
No.
I can't remember what it stands for, but if I thought about it, it would probably come to me. It's been a long time since I've even thought about it. But it essentially opened borders and encouraged free trade between Canada, U.S., and Mexico, NAFTA agreement. So that changed the broom industry in the U.S. huge. The other thing I was going to show you is... Actually, I'll get it from the side. I can show you what the knurl looks like when it's woven.
Yeah, please.
Really, really nicely. And then I'll show you my first broom, and you'll laugh.
I'm gonna laugh. I don't think
you will laugh.
I think we will.
Anything you do for the first time.
I think it's
Never
great.
going to be perfect.
I think doing stuff for the first time is wicked.
So these are little hand brooms. These are some of the first ones I made. This is the very first one I wove. So you can see this bit here is here and detached. And so you can see where I've missed little bits, and it's really thick and wide, and
doesn't look that bad.
It looks pretty good.
But this is what it's supposed to look like.
Okay.
So there's a very big difference. So that's what happened when I took that lesson with Cynthia.
Oh, really?
Can I plug her book?
Yeah, of course you can.
Cynthia Main,
plug
Sunhouse
anything.
Craft. She has written a book. It's called The Handmade Broom. It's for pre-order now in the UK on all your big sites, wherever you buy books. The aesthetic is so traditional and so beautiful. Her work, she's a master broom maker. And
it's
clearly,
just on broom making.
Just brooms, handmade broom, and the photography looks beautiful from what I've seen so far. The aesthetic is super clean and lovely, and she's really passionate about this craft as well, and really keen to build community as well. So if you want to go harvest broom corn and take broom making lessons, you can go to her studio in Kentucky in September next year.
Oh wow!
And do it.
You're gonna do it?
Yep, I'll be there next year.
Nice.
So it'll be but this is an example of people sharing knowledge. And it just was a complete game changer, total game changer. I mean,
because you would never have even known where
I know.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. And this is the wrong twine. Like this is like this kind of plastic stuff I found online, and it was just
Wow.
It's awesome.
This is very cool.
So handle,
broom
knurl and
corn.
hurl.
Yep.
So that goes on. That all gets. Is it just twined on, or is it glued in any way?
It's done in one go.
Right.
So it's one piece of string. So this is the other thing. I also use a nail. Some broom makers use a little wood, like almost a dowel that goes in to kind of keep the head on. I just put a nail in, little tiny iron nail, and then that's where you put the twine on. You sit in a chair, and the twine is at your feet. There's a few different ways to hold the twine, different tools to use. Essentially, it's a dowel at your feet, maybe 60 centimeters long. Wind the twine on it, and then you literally add bundles as you go. You've got the handle on your lap, and you're literally just adding bundles as you go.
Tight, I'd imagine.
Very,
tight.
very tight. So tight you could twang the string and it should make a sound.
Oh, really?
I will say the twine that I use is a commonly used twine in North America as well. And it is a poly twine, which doesn't make me very happy, but apparently natural fibers do relax with time. And if you were to use hemp, for example, and I have hemp and I've used it, it looks amazing, but it doesn't hold for very long.
Right.
It won't last you a lifetime, where the poly twine will. So this is not compostable, but this is recyclable.
But maybe back in the day, those people would have retensioned their brooms, but they'd have known how to do that. Your customers aren't going to want to also retension it. There has to be a bit of sensibility into it, right? We're trying to get them back in people's houses.
I think so, and I think that there's enough broom makers now looking for a replacement for this particular material. But when it's done really beautifully, I mean, look at the shine on that. I mean, it's just gorgeous. I know how beautiful that, like, just the shine is just so. And so if you do a full handle of it, it's really pretty. And it's incredibly strong. Like if you feel how strong that handle is.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was most impressed with, both with this and
the knurl.
Proper one. Yeah, is just how, like that's a block of wood at that point. It's so tight.
That's a French polisher, by the way. That's a polissoir.
What is this?
Yeah, for woodworking.
Oh, okay.
So I've made some prototypes for my handle guy, and he sort of told me, like, sort of rough dimensions. That's a North American version. Apparently European versions are made with rush, which is obviously a different material. And that's something that I've got my eyes on as well. But, that little hand brush right there, if you've got a van, you go camping, you got an art studio, pottery studio, garden shed, hearth. I use them in the fireplace. I use them everywhere. I use them in my kitchen. Anywhere you use a dustpan and brush, you can use one of those.
So tell me, this, I might get you to sort that though. Yeah. This, so you know the pattern here?
Yeah.
For everyone that's just listening, it's basically threaded on the first, and then it picks up 2 lots, and then 3 lots, and then 4 lots, and then 5 lots, and then 6 lots of the corn as it goes. Is that a traditional thing? Because you see that's all of the small brushes are made that way.
And it's global. It's not just American style. It's not just European style. It's global. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't done proper research because I'm not trained to do that kind of research. But what I've seen about that particular broom in your hand, I call it a hen's wing. Some Americans will call it a turkey wing or just a wing, angel wing. But it does look like a bird wing. It was also called a Dutch broom.
Right.
And why was it called a Dutch broom, I wonder? And this is an American name for it. Probably because people came from, when it was still the colonies, people probably came from that part of the world, and they brought this technology with them, that particular style. But if you go to Asia, and when I say Asia, I mean East Asia, that is a prevalent style as well. So probably what happened was the Dutch were trading, weren't they, back in the day? They were everywhere back in the day. They probably picked up some of these brooms, brought them back to their homes, and people started making them. And then they went to the colonies. And then people started making them, and now I'm making them. So it just is, I think, it's like any sort of style of anything. I think cultures and countries do influence each other. It's just a matter of, what people pick up and what people retain as well.
So I would also bet it's called a hen's wing, is because originally geese and hen's wing were brushes that you used to use.
That's what someone else has said. Oh, they were made from feathers, which is strange because
before they were made from feathers, when they were made from feathers, that was for the posh people that had feathers made from them.
Yeah.
But if you owned a farm, you just cut off a wing.
You can buy them still.
You
can buy bird wings now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just found a Welsh taxidermist who is selling wings, and I've been looking at them thinking, how do I incorporate that? That would be something kind of unusual. It's not a new idea. Again, it's probably an old idea, but they're still around. So, and they're beautiful, especially like magpie wings. They're kind of that greeny black color.
So, and again, for people listening, please go onto YouTube so you can see all this and it'd be much easier. And we get paid when you're on YouTube. So that's what, 16 inches, inch and a half handle by flares out at the end to a 9-inch brush head. Time?
20 minutes?
Really?
30 with the because I do weigh my bundles, so that's how they start. Those little plate dividers. I actually weigh my bundles so that my brooms are uniform.
So you're going like the clappers, like you're going at some rate.
I'm going pretty quick now. It took me about an hour when I first started. Like these probably took me a whole day, but it probably about 20, 30 minutes now.
That's experience, isn't it?
I think it'll go about an hour and a half, and I was going to scold you for having a £30 price tag on it.
It'll probably go even faster as I get going. I mean, I've technically completed my first year, but because I had a break for my health last year, and I didn't make for almost 6 months, I moved in here in February, and then kind of like hemmed and hawed. I wasn't sure what I was going to, I don't know, I just sort of wasn't sure what I was going to do, and it was really cold in here.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Once I started just making, then I made just loads and loads and loads, and did the weaving class, made my first wedding broom commission, which will be on a television show. Can I talk about that?
Yeah, of course you can.
It hasn't aired yet, but it's a Welsh language television show. It'll be on S4C. And when I made it, I had never even seen a double-headed broom before. But I explained to the woman who commissioned it, who was a friend of a friend, who's also her own business. She's a florist. Yeah. I said, I've never made one, but this is my idea. And I sent her photographs of someone else's work, one of the broom masters I'd like to sit with. And she said, I'll leave it with you. You just run with it. So I had a few months to do it. And that was when I got in touch with Cynthia and took the lesson, which changed everything. And it'll be on a wedding reality TV show. And I won't even say it because I can't speak Welsh. But it's essentially Don't Tell the Bride, but it's also Don't Tell the Groom. So the two families do the wedding.
Oh, cool.
All they know is the date, the location, and she tries on 3 dresses and selects 3 dresses. Goodness. So they don't know what's going to happen. The emphasis is on sustainable and handmade within a budget, and the broom was perfect. So it will be that'll be in January. That'll air in January. So I'm very excited about that.
That's very cool. You seem to be doing a lot in your first year.
I am doing a lot.
Does that worry you, or was that the plan?
It worries me a little bit because I didn't think people would say yes to me. I just thought, it'll take me ages to
do everything and hope people say yes. Oh bugger, everyone said yes.
Yeah, but I feel
good. Have the right attitude.
I do feel good about it, though. I mean, I feel hopeful because, as I say, in a few years' time, I want to listen back to this because this point in time, literally right now, I mean, I couldn't believe when you guys said, do you want to do a podcast? Because I've seen and I've listened to you, so I know the level of maker that you're talking to, and I just don't, anyway, my daughter said, don't, devalue yourself, so I'm going to try not to do that, but genuinely don't understand how this happened. But
because I've seen your Threads post, because you came up on Threads.
Oh, yeah.
And then I noticed that you'd also I think you dropped us a DM, but which we miss all the time because we get hundreds of them a day.
Oh, I bet you do.
And then the comments, but then you dropped in on our threads and
at the right time, and I was like, do you know what? Yeah, I want to go and see
Threads is the
her.
one. And do you know what? If there's ever a case for like, just keep popping on people's socials in different ways, that's it. Because whether it's us or a TV show or whatever.
Genuinely love what you do. So I thought it's, and I mentioned, and Alyssa was, funnily enough, Alyssa Blackwell is the only broom maker I've met in person.
Right.
She was the one I was telling you about, the one with the crazy brooms.
Yep.
She'll probably hear this, but she was the one who tagged me on your post in the first place. So that's when I thought, oh, it must be the guys from Idaho, which it isn't. And then I started really looking. I'm like, oh, I actually follow them. I've listened to you before. I know who you are. Oh my gosh. Oh, there's no way. There's no way. But thanks, Alyssa. And I messaged her. Oh, thanks, honey. That's so sweet. And we chit chat, and what have you. And then I got your message, so I messaged her straight away and said, thank you so much. So it's other makers helping other makers, and I just think that is so key. There's no reason to gatekeep any of this, and I don't intend to. Yeah. So probably try to talk more people into making brooms that have no interest in it whatsoever.
Well, whenever you do, whenever you plan on doing anything, I want to come.
I will definitely let you know. And I know Alyssa met people from Scotland. She was just at a fiber festival in Spain. This is how I got to meet her. She came back through London with a layover and just put a little message on her Instagram saying, hey, I have time for brunch tomorrow morning in London if anybody wants to meet up or have a coffee. So I thought, her following is huge. There'll be like 12 people. And I just messaged her and said, hey, tell me where you are, because I'm going to come in from Bristol. I'm going to drive in and drop my car in Reading and just hop in on the train. And then I got there to the tower, and it was just me and her. And it was amazing. Aww. I mean, I was actually able to tell her, you've completely changed my life. Like, you've totally...
But good for you for going and doing it as well.
Yeah.
Because that's giving you the chance to go and do it. And not being like, oh, she's got a big following. Because we've done stuff. We've done events and knocking the door at nearly 40,000 followers, and internet people are not real people. You still need to do the real people bit.
Yeah.
Internet people are cool, but you still need to do the real people bit.
Yeah. Genuinely, my husband thought I was crazy. He's like, why are you driving all the way to London to meet this person that you've never met before? I said, because her craft has influenced me directly.
And you want to say thank you.
I just want to meet her and just say thank you.
That's cool.
That was the first thing I said to her. Mel, please don't think I'm a weirdo, because I'm really not, but you've totally changed my life. She was like, oh, stop it. But it's really true. And funnily enough, we did talk about brooms, but not making. We talked about life as a maker. Nice. And she's quite a few years ahead of me, so that was a really interesting conversation too. It was really good. Yeah.
That's awesome. Like those kind of stories.
Yeah, it was a good day. It was really fun. Look who I found wandering around the Tower of London, like the broom maker. Yeah. Like, it's just brilliant. And she's different to the other broom makers. And there are others that are like her as well. So I don't mean to make this all about Alyssa either. Sorry, Alyssa. But there are some fantastic makers in the US. If you just look for hashtags on Instagram, you will find them. And they are brilliant and really inspiring. It makes me look at other craft and think, well, what could you do with that? Like, if you could do this much with brooms, what could you do with other crafts?
Yes.
Yeah, one of the hardest parts of our job is to keep seeing people making and doing more and more and more, and then not having time to do hands-on stuff ourselves. That's one of the real difficult bits.
I know,
but what you're doing is so important, and I
think so.
I am, again, so grateful for this opportunity.
You're most welcome.
Much.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to cover before we wrap up? How do people find... We'll make sure and do the social bits now, so how do people find out about you? Where do they go?
They can find me, probably the best place is Instagram. I'm pretty active there. I do have a website as well, which is bristolbroomworks.com. But my website needs some help. So that's not a really great way to look at a big selection of my work. I do tend to make things and not photograph them, which I'm terrible about. I'm trying to get better. And also, when I do markets, I'll make stuff just for a market and totally forget to photograph it. And then I sell it and it's gone and I forget. So, but Instagram is probably the best spot. And I'll even do stuff that's work in progress. I take custom orders normally. Right now, my shop is shut just for October. But I am so happy to make the broom of your dreams.
Yay, I love it.
That's awesome.
Broom of your dreams.
Okay, have you got any other questions other than your final?
I haven't, actually. I'm just so glad that it was top 10.
I'm really glad you did too. It's been such a pleasure to speak to you, and your accents are so cool. Oh my God. I'm glad you liked it.
I was on a live stream with Ben when he was making saddles on TikTok, and some woman in fact in Montana kept going on about how I should narrate an audiobook. Like, can you please narrate an audiobook? I was like, no. No, I can't read well enough. I can't.
I mean,
do it.
I married a Welshman. Right. I should mention that. I married a Welshman. That's how I got to this country. And I still don't really understand him very well.
That's
I
funny.
have to lip read sometimes because he's super Welsh.
Like, that's what I am listening to you, honestly.
When I first started to like interact with him, like on the phone especially, I would just laugh when he laughed. I had no idea what he was saying. But now,
brilliant.
but then Gavin and Stacey came out right when I moved here, and I learned everything I needed to know about the Welsh culture by watching Gavin and Stacey. And I lived in Wales at the time. It was brilliant. I'm so sad that show's coming to an end. It's such a good show.
I don't think I've ever watched it, but I've heard it non-stop.
It's great. I think as a Scottish person, you'll love the way the English depict themselves. It's brilliant. A relationship between Celtic people and English people is always comedy. It's brilliant. Really, really, really good.
We've covered what's next. I just want to make sure we've covered all our boats. We've covered your socials. It's been a long week of podcasting.
Yeah. Yeah, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, my younger self. Yeah. Oh, wow. Don't sit at the desk longer than you need to.
We just had this conversation.
I sat at the desk longer than I should have, and it's affected my health, no doubt about it. But it's because of my personality and the way that I work. So probably, I think that's it. I genuinely don't feel like I have any sort of regrets, but in terms of like creative life, I started with something really, really cool and then left it for the right reasons because I was a single mom and I needed to do a 9-to-5 Monday through Friday. And I did that. I sacrificed that career and I went and worked for lawyers. What was I thinking? I was thinking about money and I made money and it was brilliant and it totally was a means to an end. But when I moved to the UK, I should have stepped away from it and I didn't. So there was another 15, 16 years of it. My last job was on HPC. I was working on a nuclear power plant build.
Oh, wow.
Right, okay.
As a project support officer. But again, just, 2 monitors all day long, very intense, but working with some amazing people. I loved that job so much. It was my favorite job I've had in this country. But I just physically, I can't do it anymore. It's just cortisol. It's just not natural. It's not a good thing in those doses. So that would be my advice to everyone is to have a good think. Sometimes the risk is worth it. But I'm really, really fortunate that I'm with someone that can sort of bridge the gap, and that's key. And I know that. But again, I was a single mom for 18 years, so I know what it's like to not have that option either.
Yeah.
So
you're just creating the life that you want now.
Yeah.
Doing a craft.
It's all kind of come around in a circle. Yeah. And I think that's why I'm pushing so hard with it now is maybe not making up for lost time, but I really feed on the creative part of it, and because it feels a little bit spiritual for me as well because of my grandparents and that connection. I feel better than I have felt in decades, and that's no lie. And this is a girl who's probably menopausal, not sure, but have had a lot of other things. It's just that perfect storm, mid-50s time. I feel really fortunate to have this opportunity. Cool. And so if you are a creative person and you have to do it part-time or at night, or don't even have time because you have children and the rest of it, just have faith that it will come back, but you have to make a conscious decision to do it. That's the tough bit. Don't just get complacent and sit on the couch. Try to keep your foot in that door because it will come back if you want it to. You just have to make it happen.
Love it. You just got to make it happen.
Make it happen.
That's a good way to end this.
Oh, thank you guys.
Wicked. Thank you so much. Great way to wrap up the tour.
Yes, very much so.
It's been fantastic.
Did you enjoy it then? It wasn't too bad.